we know that in specifically Roman, Egyptian, and Irish traveller communities, and potentially some Roma families too,
Sure.
often when two people split up and they have children, the mother
Mhm.
might move back in with family or move
Sure.
back to sort of the family site and
Yes.
live in a caravan there.
Sure.
So if this person asked if myself and my children live with their grandparents and the grandparents get custody of the children, would the mother need to move out?
Well, first of all, custody is a really old-fashioned term that we don't use anymore because as a profession, we all felt like we had to get away from this idea that children could be owned by one parent or another or a family member. So the terms that are more used now are child arrangements, and that can cover who a child spends most of their time with. It may be called a residence order if the child lives with that parent, that person, or who gets to see the child. It can sometimes be called shared care or an order saying that the child lives with mother, spends time with father, or vice versa. If the grandparents get a live with order, then it'll depend on what the order says about the parents and having contact. So my usual situation is where a mum's had to flee from a violent situation with the children to safeguard them and go back to mum and dad and either live on the site or live in with them. Um, and if that's the case, then if the concerns are about the other parent, then no, you shouldn't have to move out. It'll depend on how it'll all depend on what the concerns are and what the circumstances are. Um, if there's a problem with both parents, for example, and the local authority are involved and they may place the children with the grandparents, then it would be quite unusual for one of the parents, one or other of the parents, to live in the same accommodation as the children and the grandparents. Difficulty for parents there too in those situations.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's quite a common thing that comes up that if for some reason the mother can't, keep her children, she would want them to go to a member of the family. And if the
Absolutely right.
grandparents are able,
Yeah,
that
absolutely
would be
right.
the ideal scenario. But the issue then comes with if that is the case, where does the mother go? Um,
Yes. And I think
yeah.
that that's a whole new raft of know your rights. And we could maybe do another discussion about that. But there's help out there, there's support out there. So make sure that you get it if you're in that situation.
If if that is the case, if the children need to go to someone else,
Mm. Mm.
what do family members need to do in order to get that custody or yeah, to have that child with them for the
Mhm.
majority of the time?
Well, if the local authority, it depends what's happening. If there are allegations of abuse or ill treatment and the local authority is involved, then the grandparents would need to be assessed and pass the assessment as fit and proper people to have the children, because what local authorities can't do if they're involved with a family and there's court proceedings, for example, is they can't just say, oh, you'll do, we'll place them with you. They've got to make sure that they're going to place the children with somebody who's appropriate. Now, assuming that grandparents or other family members are appropriate, there's no problem.
Hmm.
And they might end up with getting a child arrangements order, a live with order. They might end up getting what's called a special guardianship order, which means that the parents don't lose their parental responsibility for the children, but if you like, the special guardianship order trumps it. So if there's a disagreement at a later stage about between parents and grandparents, for example, about school or about taking out of the country or anything like that, then the final decision will be made by the person with a special guardianship order. If the local
And
authority aren't involved and the parents and everybody else who's got an interest agrees that the grandparents or whoever are going to have the children, then you don't really need to do anything, because what you're doing is you're sharing your parental responsibility with somebody who you love and trust and somebody who can look after your children.
yeah, okay, great. And as part of those sort of assessments, would there be financial assessments?
No, it doesn't really come down to financial, because you can be on very, very low income, universal credit, for example, or benefits, or any kind of benefits. That's not the point. The point is this a good loving home? Is the child going
Mhm.
to be safe here?
Yeah.
And it really, I mean, it makes me very angry when I hear about any local authority who are trying to say these people caring for these children can't afford to do it because, put some resources in, give them some support. That's your job.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern around that as
Yes.
people that potentially live on a council site who are in
Yeah.
receipt of
Mhm.
benefits. There'd be a lot of concern there around, well, will they think that we're fit to take care of this child
Mhm.
because we
Mhm.
don't earn very much?
The money isn't an issue. I mean, most of the parents that I act for in these situations are on benefits. And my job is to make sure they get the support and the financial support, if necessary, put in place so that they don't have to worry about that.